So we have ESB. Now, why do we need ESB or why do we need the functional approach in ESB? It's because they're a significant part of the comp, a significant part of the culture, significant part of the labor costs for the ERs. And so this is a systematic approach to ensure that the benefits that we currently have are adhering to the regulations or adhering to the customs and the rules and laws that are currently in place. If there are any other benefit plans currently that we are offering, or if there's any gaps, any coverage gaps, we want to review those existing plans first. And so that's why we need a systematic approach, is to review those existing plans, integrate with other benefit plans. So review existing what you currently have, other plans, review other plans, integrate with those other plans. And the other part is that you want to make sure that these benefits are adhering to the latest laws and regulations. And now these EE benefits now are a significant part of the comp and the labor cost. And now we have a total comp philosophy. We know that depending on the organization, the type of organization, it's going to have a different philosophy and a way of methodology of executing these benefits and the types of benefits they have. So if it's a nonprofit, we know it's going to have a low cash and also a non-cash option. If it's sales, it's typically have higher incentive cash bonuses, higher short-term incentives compared to long-term. Conservative financial, we know have high non-cash options. We have two types of philosophies: comp service oriented, which depends on where the benefits are tied to the compensation of their service or the tenure. And so this is typically life and pension. And then we also have benefits or needs oriented. So these are medical expenses. So these are needs. So this is identifying what are the needs of the EEs first that we or should tailor our entire benefit program to. Now we have functional approach. So we have first classifying the EE needs and then classifying the categories of EEs. So first is classifying the needs, then it's classifying the EEs themselves, then it's analyzing, okay, what benefits do we have currently? What are the gaps in the current and overlapping plans? Are there what considerations do we have when we're making changes? So the two classifications, then benefits that you currently have, gaps in the current versus overlapping, then you consider recommendations for those changes, and then you estimate, okay, now for each of these recommendations, now what is the estimated cost or saving for each recommendation? Then you evaluate method of financing. How are we going to finance, allocate the cost or the monetary value to each of these different recommendations that we have to integrate or to implement a change in the benefit structure that we currently have. Then we consider cost saving containment techniques. Then we finally decide, okay, this is the final benefit structure that we want to go with. And implement the last three are easy. Implement changes, communicate those changes, and then periodically evaluate benefits director. We know plan design organizational objectives, cost culture, changing market conditions, E needs. You have to take into account what the needs of the org is. And we have plan delivery. So this is all about delivery. It's all about now communicating these benefit changes, communicating what the benefits are, abiding by the rules and regulations. Now, communicating this out to the EEs. Now, this is through the benefit orientation, the policy clarifications. If there's any other external circumstances or exceptional circumstances or one-off scenarios or situations, you want to make sure you address those. How are claims going to be collected and processed? Is there benefit counseling? Is there a constant? Is there a process for if an EE wants to consult someone or get more information? Can we set up that process? We have to have quality standards of customer service. So these are personalized benefit statements. These are standards of responding to requests for benefits in a timely manner. So that's quality of standard of customer service. We have enforcing this entire new employee benefit system. That's delivery. That's delivering the plan. Now, policy formulation is all about now during the time period of the policy. Now the consumer is going to have questions. They're going to have things that come up in terms of denial of a claim, waiting period questions, whether or not this new procedure can be covered or not, service areas. Those questions, they get answered now during the policy formulation because this is when the policy is now being enacted upon, right? It's formulating, it's in progress. And so now we have two types of approaches. We have proactive, reactive. Okay, whenever questions arise, yeah, we'll react to them. But instead of reacting, we want to make sure we're being proactive, and we try to come up with a solution, develop the solution before the problem even exists, in order to help mitigate future potential issues that could occur. And we have communication. So this is because we know that there's different educational levels and multiple regulatory requirements, and there's a diverse workforce in terms of education, in terms of culture, in terms of perspectives. And so we want to make sure that that the org is able to communicate that out to the EEs effectively. So we have SPDs. So this is description in plain language of the plan provisions, so eligibility, benefit provisions. We have material modifications. And we also want to apply technology. So this is pulling claim reports. How can we have an efficient process for pulling claims? This is CHDPs, evaluate the assumptions. What are the reserve requirements? Management reporting and monitor the results to compare with the competition. So you compare feature by feature, then you compare the relative value of the benefits that are added. You compare the cost of the ER, compare the benefits under different circumstances. So what benefits would others give for your cohort? So you sort of normalize. So this is the cohort that this current company has. Now, if the same cohort were to go to this company, right? Same cohort, same individual, same group of members, what benefits would they give? Then you actually compare the actual cost. So you can compare the cost, the actual cost, and compare the relative value of the different benefits. Right? So benefit A versus benefit B. How much better is benefit B compared to benefit A? Right? In this company versus this other company. So you can compare the relative value, compare the actual cost, compare the different circumstances. Again, normalization, and then you can compare them feature by feature. Why do you want to compare that feature by feature? You can isolate specific plan provisions. Now, these specific features that we have in certain plans, they might appeal to certain groups. So probably want to capture that. You can do surveys, you can do legal and regulatory compliance. When monitoring external environment, aging workforce, demographic shifts, government policy, new technologies, org structure, products, outsourcing can be an option, but you have to make sure that that there's going to be some fragmentation, there's going to be varying benefit communications, and there's going to be some lack of integration. So you have to be very cautious of that. Now, when ER is determining these financial contributions, right, they're gonna think about what's the compensation philosophy. How much do we typically allocate for these benefits, right? Are we doing a needs-based versus is this a needs-based or a comp/service-based? Is this pension? Is this medical? Depending on those types of benefits, that's going to be one factor in determining the contribution. What's the benefit budget? How much are we allocating towards this budget? What's the competitiveness? How much are other ERs actually allocating towards this? What's the collective bargaining legislation and regulatory issues, any updated laws or any regulations or new rules that come out regarding these benefits. Defined benefit is when the ER makes a statement regarding or a rule regarding the amount of contribution that the EE has to deliver. So it's a set percentage of the premium amount. It's set by the ER that determines the contribution of EE. And this is typically the most common. And we also have defined contribution, which is fixed ER contribution. So the ER says this is the fixed amount, this is the fixed ER contribution. It's typically a dollar amount or a subsidy, not a percentage. And this is regardless of whatever plan they choose. We have payroll contribution levers, so income-based contribution levers. We can move from single to average, but the problem here is that lower paid individuals now pay more from before. And so higher paid individuals pay less from before. If you're moving from a single contribution to an average contribution, if you're taking the average of the entire spectrum of EEs, how much they contribute, then you're going to have lower pay more. And so you're going to have a problem with those low income members. Then you have a dependent subsidies possible surcharge. So you have a greater level of contribution to cover dependents, and then also anti-selection, negative employee relations due to the surcharge health incentives, which have been mitigated somewhat by ACA. But this is when changes in the payroll deductions happen through an assessment of the members' health, overall health, so through screenings, wellness screenings, annual physicals. And we have, why are these flexible accounts so popular? Well, they're tax friendly. They contain costs. It's a defined company contribution. It's test the field. They don't have to commit to an entire new benefit program or commit to subsidizing a large portion of the benefits. And it's very appealing to small groups so they can test that appeal very, very easily and efficiently. They don't have to launch a new program for this entire group. They can add new benefits without subsidizing an entire expensive area. They can just say, okay, now here's a fixed amount, and now you can spend it on whatever medical expense that you want. And so this they can know now what the demand is based upon what they spend it on. So it tests appeal without committing to a full choice program. Contain cost. Why does it contain cost? Because it's a fixed, it's a fixed contribution. Now these benefits are again, it's comp tax friendly, softens impact of higher EE cost sharing. So some EE may have to pay deducts or co-pays. And so to alleviate that impact, now ER says, okay, now here's a fixed amount, a fixed contribution to the HSA. And the thing to know about Quebec is that they do view these deposits as taxable income, whereas the rest of Canada, ER contributes to the HSA spending, not savings, which is different in the US. But that would not count as taxable income. And then we have HSAs in Canada, which is you can think of these almost as you have a fixed allocation before the plan year. So E's choose whatever amount they want to allocate, annual allocation. And so then the ER then allocates that amount. And this is irrevocable for the year. So this is fixed, cannot be changed unless certain circumstances happen, which are these qualified life events, or if it's a new mid-year hire. And now the carryover is typically 1 year rollover unused or rollover unpaid claims, so grace period run out. And now we have personal accounts, which are for reimbursement for these non-medical expenses or lifestyle financial management. And this is taxable income because it's not doesn't count as a medical expense. And traditional FSA process, right? You incur some expense, fill out the form attached for receipt, submit the claim. Admin sees, okay, does this approve? Does this count as a medical expense? Does this count as a medical expense? Does it count under, if it's an HSA, does it count under that? Is it tax free? All those, then reviews the claim. Then yes, okay, you can use the amount from this HSA or the amount from this personal account because it meets this XYZ criteria and eligibility. So you're able to do that. Now, end of year, then you have to figure out, okay, now could these be forfeited or rolled over to the next year? So you have to figure out what the carryover factor is. And is there a short run out period to cover incurred expenses during the year? So they could be incurred during the year, let's say, but maybe they're not reported or even paid out until the following year. Do you still want to account for those? Do those still account? Right? How do you want to account for those? That's the end of year account mechanics we have. So now design consideration is we have what's the type of approach? You can have an HSA, you can have a standalone HSA, you can have a personal account, impact on other benefits. You have to think about if when EEs have this HSA, they may opt out of certain benefits because they have this contribution amount. So they may choose a lower cost option in a coverage area because they already have this HSA. Funding, where should the funds come from? What are the limits? How much and when are available? What are the forfeiture rules? Changes during the year. So again, as we mentioned, which HSA, there could be increased contribution if there is a family change, family status change, retirement death, termination. These changes could occur, right? We said it's irrevocable at the start of the year, but there could be these new circumstances that could arise. And then what happens at year end? Now HSAs, this is referring to the ones in Canada, right? Say spending accounts. Again, fixed employer subsidy tax free, simple to administer, control over costs and the overspending, right? Free from limitations, frequency limits, deducts, max, right? It's free from those limitations. Flexibility, the documentation is very straightforward. Disadvantages, inadequate coverage, not good for emergencies. It could be some inequalities, right? Some healthy, some more sick have different needs because it's a fixed contribution. Some may need it the larger amount. And the percentage of paid contribution hurts lower paid EEs. So if it is okay, we're gonna add this percentage, so it's gonna be lower for the lower paid EEs. So which definitely hurts. So sometimes large expenses cannot be covered, and so it also has some inequalities for the EEs. Private exchange is we have a marketplace created by these brokers on Mercer, and then they're created by these consultants as well, run by private companies, where ERs offer a defined contribution, say subsidy, and say, okay, now you get to choose whatever plan that you want. And so the advantage here is that the online enrollment and decision tools. They have integrated cost estimation. They have tools on you can enter in specific things you're looking for in a plan. They can help you match you with the best plan. They can help you estimate the cost for under this plan, depending on your needs, helping you tailor the plan to your needs and find the best plan for you. So it's a very automated process and a very modern framework. And so that's what this entire benefits admin is very tailored to the ER needs. So it's greater EE choice, predictable costs, better shopping experience, and we also have competition among insurers because they want to make the consumers select their plan. And so now they're in a marketplace as private exchange where consumers can actually pick. And so they want to have the most attractive plan. So there's some competition between them. There's less ER admin complexity, right? Less ER admin complexity. Now, it could be some greater complexity in terms of the exchange operator. Right? The exchange operator, or maybe some fees with the exchange operator. ER doesn't design on the plan type, on the plan design that gets carried over to the insurers themselves. So EEs, they lose plan control to the exchange. There is some decision fatigue, right? Paradox of choice, dissatisfaction. ER may need to increase the defined contribution over time. Premiums could increase. They don't have control of the premiums. They could increase. So they may need to increase their defined contribution. Maybe some exchange operator fees. Cost savings from increased competition. Now, typically, this is where we have these member buy downs, where they choose these cheaper plans with that have lower premiums than they would in a traditional employer plan. So in a traditional employer plan versus in a private exchange. So private exchange, these plans are typically going to be marketed at a higher premium than they would be in what you would typically get an employer sponsored plan, because there's no cross subsidization. There's no cross subsidization where with traditional ER they may offer different subsidies on different plans, but it's a fixed level amount for private exchanges. So cross subsidization is the employer intentionally makes richer plans cheaper than their true cost. So that's the difference between what the premium price you would see at the employer-sponsored plan versus whether you go out and they just give you a defined contribution and then you can choose whatever plan you want in the private exchange. And so we have also public exchange. Again, instead of these marketplaces ran by private companies, we have these ACA marketplaces run by government for individuals. And so ACA regulations are in place. We have ACA compliant plans. Individuals can get premium tax credits. And these are limited to medical prescription drugs. ACA rules apply here as well. We have bronze, silver, and gold and platinum plans as well, where gold and platinum have the more rich benefits, higher actuarial value. So the plan is taking more of the costs of the total claim cost. HDHPs, lower premium, high deductibles, limited first dollar coverage. We have embedded versus family deductible. So aggregate, we have aggregate versus embedded deductible. Aggregate versus embedded deductible. So in aggregate, we have the family members responsible for the full allowed amount of services until the entire aggregate family deductible is met. Embedded is self-only individual is above family member deductible. So this is the requirement. And every dollar that counts towards an individual also counts towards the family. And once that individual is met, then you automatically move into co-insurance plans payments, even though the family deductible is not met. So that's embedded deductible. So encourages most to be cost conscious. Doesn't work well in emergencies. May skip or delay unnecessary care. Depends on the healthcare needs. And more cost conscious. Factors cost transparency, allow more first dollar link consumerism, so not just shopping behavior here once, not just being very cost conscious once, but actually all the time and more than once, and being very getting to that identity instead of just making it a one-time behavior, pre-funding it early in the beginning of the year so that they have enough to spend, and having more transparent discussions between the providers and patients regarding the cost and effectiveness of treatment. They want to know what the cost is and effectiveness of the treatment is very clearly and early on so they're able to decide. Because that's the goal, is to help them become more cost conscious and to shift some of the financial responsibility over to the consumer. Now, the future is that to increase the contribution limits, allow the coverage for these non-major medical expense items. Again, now the three HSA, FSA, right? So HSA, personal health savings account, investment feature, contribution limit. It's owned by the EE, HRA owned by the ER, no contribution limit, and it stays with the ER even after they leave. It's reimbursement arrangement, FSA flexing spending how it's non-personal savings account through payroll deductions, and now, why has the market trend been towards these HDHPs? Because of high cost of unsubsidized premiums, meaning that in typical plans, you have these premiums that are not subsidized, right? So we know that HDHPs have these lower premiums, so that's an advantage compared to the higher premiums in other plans. We have these premium tax credits. And then also we have lower premiums for older members as well. This 3-to-1 ratio that you have to take into a consideration when you're coming up with these premium rates. Guiding principles. So these are the philosophical strategies to adhere to maximize the financial efficiency and limit year-over-year volatility, while the specific objectives are more narrow and more tailored to a category or a numerical quantity of a guiding principle. Stop there.